In this problem, we have an equation involving rational expressions. So the first thing we need to do is factor all denominators and find our LCD. So this first denominator is not factorable. The second one has two terms, and it's the difference of squares. So let's build our LCD. From the first denominator, we know we need x plus 3 as a factor. From the second denominator, we need x plus 3 as a factor, and we also need x minus 3 as a factor. From the next term, we need x minus 3 as a factor, but it's already there. And from the next term, we need 1 as a factor, and of course, that's always there. So now we're going to multiply every term by the LCD. And I'm going to put this over 1 since I'm multiplying by a fraction. Minus, and always beware the minus sign. Notice I'm not even trying to factor that numerator because we don't factor numerators. I'm going to have to use two lines here because I don't have enough space. Well, I'll leave that. Again, I'm going to put it over 1 because we're multiplying by a fraction. Now with this last term, I'm not going to put it over 1. Now we're ready to simplify this result. We have a common factor of x plus 3 here, and we're left with 5x times x minus 3. Minus, and here, x plus 3 cancels, x minus 3 cancels, and we're just left with minus this whole numerator, so be very careful. In this next term, the x minus 3's cancel, and we're left with negative 15 times x plus 3. And in this next term, we're left with x plus 3 times x minus 3. I might as well use the original form, which is x squared minus 9. Okay, so let's simplify each side. So we get 5x squared minus 15x. Let's distribute our negative, so we get negative 5x squared minus 5 equals, distribute negative 15, we get negative 15x minus 45 plus x squared minus 9. So 5x squared minus 5x squared gives us nothing, and we're left with negative 15x minus 5. And I'm going to reorder the terms here, so we want x squared first. We have only one term involving x, and that's negative 15x. And negative 45 minus 9 is negative 54. Let me clean up the screen a little here. All right, so now we have to evaluate. Both sides have been cleaned up. What type of equation do we have? If we have a linear equation, we're going to want to isolate our variable. But if we have a quadratic equation or equation involving x squared, which is what we have, then we want 0 on one side. So we're going to get 0 on one side here. And that leaves us with 0 equals x squared, these add up to 0, minus 49. Nice, we have two terms. It's not a GCF, it's a difference of squares. Always opposite signs, and 7 times 7 is 49. Set each factor equal to 0. And solve each equation. Subtracting 7 from both sides, we get x equals negative 7. Adding 7 to both sides, we get x equals positive 7. Now, we need to check our solutions. So I'm going to take negative 7, and I could put it in each denominator of the original equation. I could just go to the LCD. Will negative 7 make this factor equal to 0? No. What about this factor? No. In fact, negative 3 would make this first factor equal 0, and positive 3 would make the second factor equal to 0. So when I go to check 7, well, that's not going to make either denominator equal to 0 either. So our solution set is negative 7 and 7. And we are done. Now I'd like to take a look at what would happen if you dealt with this in the same way that you deal with adding and subtracting rational expressions. So instead of multiplying every term by the LCD, we're going to multiply by what is missing, so every expression has the same denominator in the end. So first term, 5x over x plus 3 is missing the x minus 3. The second term, well, the LCD is the denominator, so we are not missing any factors. In the next term, we are missing the factor of x. We are missing the factor of x plus 3. And in this last term, well, first of all, let's put it over 1, and we are missing both factors. So we have 5x squared minus 15x over the LCD. Let's distribute this negative now and get it done with. So we have plus negative 5x squared minus 5 over the LCD. Negative 15x minus 45 over the LCD. And in this last term, we don't want the numerator factored, so we're going to multiply that out, and we get x squared minus 9 over the LCD. Now we can add these two expressions, and we can add these two expressions. Well, 5x squared and negative 5x squared is 0. And negative 15x minus 5 is what we are left with. Over the LCD. Now we're combining like terms here, so we have x squared is the only term involving x squared. Negative 15x is the only term involving x, and negative 45 and negative 9 is negative 54 over the LCD. And I want to point out that if you cross multiply, because now we do have that special situation where we have two equal fractions, you're going to get a mess. Because when you multiply x plus 3 times x minus 3 by negative 15x minus 5, you're going to get something even larger. Your best bet is to say, hey, if the denominators are equal, then the numerators must be equal, so we have this. And now we get 0 on one side, just like before. And we're left with 0 equals x squared minus 49. And of course, when we solve, we'll get the same solutions. So it's possible to go this route. On your homework sheet, I definitely do not want you to go this route. If you go this route on your exam, it is correct. It's just more work.